Hi students, myself Satish Kumar Konidala, Assistant Professor, School of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Vignan's Foundation for Science, Technology and Research, Guntur. In this video, I would like to discuss about the chemistry of anti-hyperlipidemic agents. So as we know that hyperlipidemic, that means high levels of lipids in the plasma. So the drugs which are treating the conditions like high lipid levels in plasma are considered as the anti-hyperlipidemic agents. Generally, hyperlipidemic conditions are leads to heart disorders. So these are So when there is a increasing the levels of lipid in our plasma, that may lead to clogging of blood vessels or coronary artery vessels, that may lead to different types of heart diseases. For that reason, we'll use the different types of anti-hyperlipidemic agents to treat these hyperlipidemias. The learning outcomes of this video includes student could understand the chemistry, adverse effects, pharmacological chemistry, metabolic pathways, adverse effects, therapeutic values of anti-lipidemic agents, and they could know the mechanism of action, structural activity relationship of different classes of anti-lipidemic agents, and finally they could understand the synthesis, properties and pharmacological uses of some important anti-lipidemic agents. The contents of this video includes introduction to the hyperlipidemias, classification of anti-hyperlipidemic agents along with their mechanism of action, structural activity relationship, and finally we are going to discuss about the synthesis, properties and pharmacological uses of some important anti-hyperlipidemic agents. Let us see one by one. The meaning of hyperlipidemia. So hyperlipidemia means there is a high levels of lipid in plasma than the normal level. So generally the normal level of lipid in case of males is about 40 to 180 mg per dl. In case of females, it is about 35 to 135 mg per dl. So this is the normal limit for the lipid which is present in the plasma. When the lipid content is more than the 180 mg per dl in plasma, then it is said to be hyperlipidemia. And this hyperlipidemia are also termed as hyperlipoproteinemia. So it is also termed as hyperlipoproteinemia. This disorder is generally seen in the well-developed countries and is a major cause for heart disorders or heart diseases. The major causes for this hyperlipidemia: abnormalities in lipid metabolism, plasma lipid transport, synthesis, synthesis and transport of plasma lipoproteins. So these are the causes. there is abnormality in lipid metabolism, plasma lipid transport, and synthesis and transport of plasma lipoproteins. So the abnormalities in these three activities may lead to hyperlipidemia. So these are the major causes for hyperlipidemia. And some of the other causes which may lead to this hyperlipidemia are lifestyle habits, obesity, diabetes, obstructive jaundice, reduced activity of thyroid gland, smoking, and lack of exercise. So these are the different type of other causes which may lead to the hyperlipidemia. So first one is lifestyle habits, obesity, diabetes, obstructive jaundice, reduced activity of thyroid gland, smoking, and lack of exercise. Next we'll see about the lipids. So what is meant by lipids? Lipids are nothing but heterogeneous mixture of fatty acid and alcohols which are present in the body. So this is a mixture of heterogeneous mixture of fatty acid and alcohols which are present in our body. So the major lipids which are present in the blood or plasma are cholesterol, and esters of this cholesterol includes triglycerides, and phospholipids. So these are the major lipids which are generally seen in blood or plasma. When you see in the cholesterol structure, this is the chemical structure of cholesterol, and it serves as important component of, which is the important component of the cell wall. Cell wall or cell membrane. And also it is an important component or precursor. So it acts as the precursor for synthesis of bile acids, steroid hormones, and some fat soluble vitamins. So the cholesterol is the important component of the cell wall or cell membrane, and it is also a important precursor for synthesis of bile acids, steroid hormones, and fat soluble vitamins. And comes to the functions of this cholesterol, it is required to form the new cells, and also required to repair older cells themselves. So it requires to form the new cells, and also it is required to the older cells to repair themselves, and it is required to produce some of the hormones like cortisol from adrenal gland, and from testes it is required to produce testosterone, so which is obtained from the testes or testicles. It is also required to produce estrogen and progesterone from ovaries. So these are the functions of cholesterol. So the cholesterol is required to form the new cells, and it is required to repair the older cells themselves, required to produce cortisol from the adrenal gland, required to produce the testosterone from testicles, and also requires to produce the estrogen, progesterone from ovaries. So that means by utilizing the cholesterol, these glands, that means adrenal gland can able to produce the cortisol, and testes will produce the testosterone, ovaries can produce the estrogen and progesterone. And when you see the source of cholesterol or lipids, so when you see the source of cholesterol or lipids, they are generally obtained from the diet or dietary items, and also which is obtained from the liver, or it is also called as endogenous source. So in case of dietary items like meat, or when you take the meat or dairy products, so these are rich in lipid substances, and liver also produces the fatty substances or lipids. And when you see the triglycerides, so these are nothing but the esters of cholesterol. Triglyceride and phospholipids are esters of the cholesterol, and they can supply the energy to our body. And this can supply the energy to our body in two ways. That means they can supply the immediate energy which is required by the muscles, or they can be stored adipose tissue as fat and utilized for future energy requirements. So these triglycerides will produce two types of energy. So they can produce immediate energy required by the muscles, or they can be stored as the fat in adipose tissue, and it will be used in future, and it will be used as future energy requirement. Next, we'll see the phospholipids. These phospholipids are also a ester form of triglycerides which are having the phosphorus in their structure, and they can be used to make the cell membranes. These phospholipids are generally used to make the cell membranes, and they can generate the second messengers, and they can store the fatty acids to produce prostaglandins. So these are the three types of roles which are performed by the phospholipids. So they are major components of the cell membrane. They can generate the second messengers and they store the fatty acids which will be utilized to produce the prostaglandins. As we know that these lipids or fatty acids are hydrophobic in nature, that means they are not mixed with the watery substances. Since most of our body consisting of water, so most of our body portion or body fluids are watery in nature, thereby there is a special transport mechanism is required to the lipids. So there is a special transport mechanism is required to transport the lipids or these fatty acids from one place to another place in our body, and that transport mechanisms or transport carriers are nothing but lipoproteins. So lipoproteins are nothing but the carrier molecules so which can transport the lipids or fatty acids from one place to another place in our body. Okay, so by binding to these lipoproteins only, the lipids, that means cholesterol, triglyceride or phospholipids, will travel from one place to another place in our body. Okay, so these lipoproteins are of 5 types with different functions. These lipoproteins are of 5 types which are having different roles or functions. So before going to see the different classes of lipoproteins, here we can observe the structure of lipoprotein. So it consisting of a protein core or protein envelope. So in that there is a cholesterol and phospholipid. So the protein core consisting of cholesterol and phospholipid. So that is a membrane content. And inside this there is a cholesterol esters like triglycerides are present. So outer membrane is nothing but hydrophobic outer surface. So it consisting of cholesterol and phospholipids, and inside this membrane there is a cholesterol ester triglycerides. That means when you see the structure of lipoprotein, it consisting of a protein and lipid, and this will be attached to the another protein that is called as apolipoproteins. Apolipoproteins. So here we can see the apolipoproteins here and here. And these apolipoproteins can allow the transport of lipids through water inside and outside of the cell. So the apolipoproteins will allow the transport of lipids or movement of the lipid content through water content inside and outside of the cell. And these apoproteins can able to produce the stability, structure support, and binding abilities to the receptor. So when you see in the structure of lipoproteins, they are nothing but the composition of lipids and proteins, and these lipids and proteins are again bind to the another protein that are called as apolipoproteins, and these apolipoproteins has the major role to allow the transport of lipids across the water content inside and outside of the cell, and they can also produce the stability, structure support, binding abilities to the receptors for these lipoproteins. And when you see the types of lipoproteins, these are of 5 types. They are chylomicrons, VLDL, IDL, LDL and HDL. Chylomicrons, so they are classified into chylomicrons. VLDL, very low density lipoproteins, very low density lipoproteins. IDL, that means intermediate density lipoproteins. LDL means low density lipoproteins. HDL means high density lipoproteins. So these are the different types of lipoproteins that are nothing but the chylomicrons. Very low density lipoproteins, intermediate density lipoproteins, low density lipoproteins, high density lipoproteins. So these all are act as carriers for the transport of lipids or fatty substance in our body. And let us see the composition and primary functions of these lipoproteins. So in case of composition and function, so here this column designates the function. So in case of composition, chylomicrons consisting of 99% of triglycerides plus 1% of protein. In case of very low density lipoprotein, it consisting of 90% lipids and 10% of proteins. In case of intermediate density lipoproteins, it is about 85% of lipids and 15% of proteins. In case of low density lipoproteins, consisting of 80% lipid and 20% proteins. In case of high density lipoproteins, it consisting of 60% lipids and 40% protein. And when seen the functions of these lipoproteins, chylomicrons will transport the dietary triglycerides from, so they can transport the dietary triglycerides to adipose tissue and muscles. In case of very low density lipoproteins, they can transport the endogenous triglycerides. That means these triglycerides which are produced from the liver. So endogenous triglycerides means the triglycerides which are produced from the liver are transported to the adipose tissue and muscle. So here we can observe the differentiation. The chylomicrons will transport the dietary TG, that means external source of TG, that means they are obtained from the diet. The triglycerides which are obtained from the diet, that means so they are present in the intestine. So the triglycerides which are present in the intestine is transported to the adipose tissue and muscle by these chylomicrons. But very low density lipoproteins will transport the triglycerides which are produced by the liver. They are called as endogenous triglycerides to the adipose tissue and muscle. In case of intermediate density lipoproteins, these are generally not observed in plasma or blood. Not observed in plasma or blood. In case of low density lipoproteins, they can transport the triglycerides or fat from other parts of body, that means from muscles to the liver. Muscles or adipose tissue to the liver. In case of low density lipoproteins, they can transport the endogenous cholesterol from liver to tissues or muscle. And in case of high density lipoproteins, they will collect the cholesterol from different parts of our body, that means from the tissues to liver. So from the tissue to the liver, and these are the functions of different types of lipoproteins. So the primary function of the chylomicrons are nothing but they can transport the dietary triglycerides from intestine to the adipose tissue and muscles, and VLDL will transport the triglycerides, that is endogenous triglyceride, which is present in the liver, to the adipose tissue and muscle. And generally these intermediate density lipoproteins are not observed in the plasma or blood. In case of low density lipoproteins, they can transport the endogenous cholesterol from liver to the tissues. And finally, high density lipoproteins can collect the cholesterol which is present in the different parts of our body, that means from different tissue to the liver back. So these are the functions of different types of lipoproteins. When you see in the overview of fat metabolism, the lipoproteins which are produced from this liver you consider this one as the liver and this one as the small intestine, and from the liver, so there is a very low density lipoproteins are produced, and from the dietary source or the lipids which are present in the dietary or the lipid which is present in the diet will produce the chylomicrons. So they will transport the triglycerides or fat which is present in the liver to the adipose tissue and muscle. In the same way, the chylomicrons which are produced from the intestinal lipids, they will carry the triglycerides to the adipose tissue and as well as to the muscle. So the fat substance is transported to the muscle. So here in case of adipose tissue, they will be stored. So in case of adipose tissue, the triglycerides will be converted into fatty acids, they are stored. In case of muscle, they are utilized. So in case of muscle, the fatty acids, free fatty acids are utilized. So during this process, for example, so when it reaching the muscle, so the fatty acids or triglycerides, when they are reaching the muscle, so they are converted into different biomolecules. The glucose which is present in these fatty acids or triglycerides will be converted into glucose 6-phosphate, and then after it is converted into fructose 6-phosphate, or again it is interconverted into fructose 1-monophosphate, and then it is converted into pyruvate, then after it is converted into acetyl CoA, and this acetyl CoA will be converted into mevalonyl CoA, and it is again converted into fatty acids. And this fatty acid will be converted into again acetyl CoA, and it is used for the synthesis of ketone bodies. The fatty acids which are obtained from the glucose. So that means there are different types of biological processes are involved. So each and every step may present different intermediate steps. The major steps are described here. So the first glucose is converted into glucose 6-phosphate, then it is converted into fructose 6-phosphate, then it is converted into pyruvate, and then after the pyruvate is subjected to converted into, then the pyruvate is converted into acetyl CoA, and it is converted into malonyl CoA, finally it is converted into fatty acid, and this again will be converted into acetyl CoA, and this will be useful for synthesis of ketone bodies. The overview of fat metabolism. The very low density lipoproteins which are produced from the liver will carry the triglycerides to the adipose tissue and to the muscle. In case of chylomicrons, and these chylomicrons are also one type of lipoproteins, they will carry the triglycerides which are produced from the intestinal lipoproteins to the adipose tissue, where they can able to store, and also they can carry these triglycerides and fatty acids which are present in the or which are produced in the intestine to the various types of muscle for their utilization. Okay, so when there is a deviation or when there is a elevation of these lipoproteins, that may lead to the different types of hyperlipidemias. So when there is a elevation, that means increasing the concentration of these lipoproteins like chylomicrons, VLDL or LDL, so these may lead to the different types of hyperlipidemias. Okay, so let us see different types of hyperlipidemias. In the classification of hyperlipidemias, hyperlipidemias are classified based upon their pattern of hyperlipidemias are classified based upon the pattern of lipoproteins on electrophoresis or ultrasonification. So based upon the properties or pattern of the lipoproteins on electrophoresis or ultrasonification. That means electrophoresis means so how they are separated based upon the electronic nature, they can separated by the electrophoresis. Based upon the pattern of separation of these lipoproteins, the hyperlipidemias are classified. So this classification is also called as Fredrickson classification. So the classification was first proposed by the Fredrickson, so that's why it is also called as Fredrickson classification for hyperlipidemias. So according to this Fredrickson, the hyperlipidemias are classified into two types. First one is the primary or familial hyperlipoproteinemia, or hyperlipidemia, and second one is secondary hyperlipoproteinemia, are also called as secondary hyperlipidemia. So according to this classification, so that means based upon the pattern of lipoproteins on electrophoresis or ultrasonification, the hyperlipidemias are classified into two types. First one is a primary or familial hyperlipoproteinemia, or it is also called as primary or familial hyperlipidemia, and second one is a secondary hyperlipoproteinemia or secondary hyperlipidemia. So that means they are classified based on the abnormalities of lipoproteins in the blood. So that means so when they are subjected to the electrophoresis or ultrasonification, they can identify the abnormalities of lipoproteins. So when there is a different types of abnormalities are present in the lipoproteins, based upon that abnormalities, the hyperlipidemias are classified into two types. So the primary or familial hypolipoproteinemia is again subclassified into 6 phenotypes. So this subclassification is based on the elevated levels of different types of lipoproteins. The primary or familial hyperlipoproteinemia is again subdivided into 6 phenotypes. They are nothing but type 1, type 1A, type 1B, type 3, type 4 and type 5. So these are the 6 phenotypes of subclasses of the primary or familial hyperlipoproteinemia. And here we can see the different types of lipoproteins are elevated in the plasma in case of different phenotypes of familial hyperlipidemia. In case of type 1, so which is generally rare in nature, and the lipoprotein which is elevated in this case of type 1 is nothing but chylomicrons. So which is chylomicrons by the reduction of LPL, lipoprotein lipase. So the chylomicrons are increased by the reduction of lipoprotein lipase, and the treatment for this type 1 class of hyperlipidemia is nothing but diet control. The type 1 class is also called as Berger-Guzet syndrome or primary hyperlipoproteinemia are also called as familial hyperchylomicronemia. So these are the different names for the type 1 phenotype of primary hyperlipidemia. So it is also called as Berger-Guzet syndrome or primary hypolipoproteinemia or familial hyperchylomicronemia. In case of type 2A, it is also called as polygenic hyperlipoproteinemia The type 2A is also called as polygenic hyperlipoproteinemia. The lipoprotein which is increased in this case is low density lipoprotein. Low density lipoprotein. And treatment for this one is bile acid sequestrants, statins and niacin. Third phenotype is type 2B. It is also called as combined hyperlipidemia. It is also called as combined hyperlipidemia. The lipoproteins which are elevated in this case are LDL and VLDL. The treatment for this condition includes fibrates and statins. So it is also a rare disease. Next one is a type 3. It is also called as familial beta lipoproteinemia. The increased lipoprotein in this case is intermediate density lipoprotein. Treatment includes fibrates and statins. Next one is the type 4, also called as familial hyperlipidemia. The lipoprotein is elevated in this case is VLDL, very low density lipoprotein. Treatment includes fibrates, niacin and statins. The last type is type 5, also called as endogenous hypertriglyceridemia. The lipoproteins elevated in this case are VLDL and chylomicrons. The treatment for this class are niacin and fibrates. So these are the different phenotypes of primary or familial hyperlipoproteinemia. The second hyperlipoproteinemia may be due to the causes for secondary hyperlipoproteinemia includes hypothyroidism, nephrotic syndrome, diabetes mellitus, and chronic renal failure. The causes for this secondary hyperlipoproteinemia includes hypothyroidism, nephrotic syndrome, diabetes mellitus and chronic renal failure.